Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And yes, we are bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It is Thursday, February 23rd, 2017, and we are finally done with the long All-Star break, and we are ready to get into some DFS action. A lot of big things, obviously, that went on. Nothing really too new that I have to report. Obviously, you guys pretty much know all the new and exciting trades that went down, especially the Boogie Cousins to New Orleans deal. That was pretty controversial, I'd say. At some point, sometimes teams just try to cut their losses, I guess, and this was an example of that. And I don't know what the deal was that Vlade Divac supposedly passed up on. I think he said he had a better deal on the table before, and he passed it up. Well, the Kings are the Kings, right? I mean, they've had Boogie Cousins for 6-7 years and haven't been relevant. So, yeah. So I think we get an idea of how their management goes. Anyway. We had a lot of fun stuff. We also seen Lou Will was traded to Houston, which I think I thought that was a good move from Houston. I guess I was a little, I'm a little confused. I thought they had Aaron Gordon, so I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they could use a nice small forward like a 3, but I guess they'll use either Aaron Gordon or Lou Will coming off the bench as a 3, because I would imagine they're not going to want to cut Harden's minutes back, and maybe they will. I don't know. But anyway, we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Also, Denver, a lot of their guys are healthy again, so we're going to have to reevaluate that situation down there. A lot of value today. Just from looking at it quickly, a lot of value today between Willie Cauley-Stein. We'll talk about some of those guys. Some of those Kings players are going to get some minutes. And, guys like Nurkic is super cheap on both sides. So there's a few guys that we'll talk about. But first, as usual, we're going to go through some of the injuries that we are aware of, just to kind of figure out some of these cash plays and figure out guys that we think we want to take advantage of. So we're going to start off. We got Aminu is supposed to be out with a knee against Orlando. Evan Turner for Portland is also expected to be out with that broken hand against Orlando. So right there on the Portland side, we see somebody I just mentioned. They're going to need, obviously they got Noah. I can never say his last name, but they have him at the power forward, but he never really plays too many minutes, and he's not that productive of a player. You also have Myers Leonard and Ed Davis. Ed Davis is obviously the one who has the highest projected points per minute. It's not necessarily saying too much because the guys he's getting compared to don't really do much. But I do think this is an opportunity now that we've had a while for Nurkic to be on this team and to kind of learn the system and talk to the coach, talk to some of the players. I think he could be in for some interesting playing time. And they're obviously going to need a big with Aminu out down low. So I think he's very, very interesting. I think on FanDuel he's super cheap. I want to say he's like $3,700 on FanDuel, and on DraftKings he's 43. So either way, on both sides he's a great play. Obviously on DraftKings you have more flexibility. You could play him and still play other centers. Where on FanDuel, if you play him, he's your only center. So it's kind of a catch-22. Yeah, he's much cheaper on FanDuel. He's more likely to hit his value on FanDuel. But if you're choosing him, then you're passing up on some of the other good centers that we have going today. Whereas on DraftKings, you can still play a guy like Nurkic, Willie Cauley-Stein even, and still find a way to, maybe not both with the center, but you could figure out a way to find a second center to play in your utility spot, or maybe somebody like Kaminsky who's multi-eligible. So, we'll, matter of fact, speaking of Kaminsky, we're going to move right on. Cody Zeller is supposed to be out with his quad against Detroit. Dude just can't get on the court, and that's fine with me because I'm going to keep playing Kaminsky. Kaminsky is 6,300. His price is up, so it's not exactly a lock. I can't say he's a lock. You figure for him to get 5x value for you today, he's going to need, at least 30 or so points. So I don't think he's necessarily a lock for 35 points or whatever, because he is Kaminsky. But I do think Drummond will have a hard time covering him from the three-point line, assuming that, listen, everything we're saying right now, keep in mind the trade deadline is not for a few hours. It's not until 3 o'clock p.m. today. I'm recording this on the East Coast, that is. I'm recording this podcast right now at 9:15 a.m. Eastern time, so there's still plenty of time for some trades to happen. So full disclosure, any of this stuff might change, and even so, when I do these podcasts, understand things change, news change. Somebody may be questionable today and then maybe out tomorrow. Somebody may be, doubtful today and they may play tomorrow. So just remember that going forward. Be able to adapt to change. Anyway, Cody Zeller's out, so I do like Frank the Tank a little bit, but there's so much other value that we're gonna have to consider. right? If I play Frank the Tank, it's probably going to be on. I'm talking about DraftKings right now. If I do play Frank the Tank, it's going to be at a forward position, I think, just because there are so many value options and good plays at center. We got Joker going tonight, so I think if I do play him, it'll be at the forward position. And on FanDuel, I think he's forward only. I'm not sure exactly what his price is on FanDuel. I'm curious. I just want to see what they have him at, because they took him a while to raise his price. Okay, now he's 6K on FanDuel now. So yeah, he's priced up across the board. And I think FanDuel also, FanDuel has moved him down to center. So for a while, he was only a power forward. So that was kind of cool because you could stick him. You knew he was going to play the center, and he's going to get those minutes down low. He's been playing mega minutes, and that's the reason that even though he's expensive, I still have to consider him. They don't really have a true backup for him. And even in a situation, we saw him getting a little bit of foul trouble in his last contest, he still ended up playing 38 minutes. So they limited his minutes in the first half because of the foul trouble, but in that second half, he came out, he still played minutes. Now, on the flip side, just because we're talking about Kaminsky, I do think Drummond is going to have his way with him down low. So if you'd rather just avoid Kaminsky and go with Drummond, I think that's fine. Assuming he doesn't get traded, there's been talks of him being traded. But I don't see Kaminsky being strong enough or capable of covering a guy like Drummond. But at the same time, I don't see Drummond being able to cover a guy like Kaminsky from the three-point line or the perimeter at all. So it's a risk. It's not exactly the guaranteed lock cash play that we've seen over these last few games. His price is up, and his matchup is he's in a pace-down matchup on the road. So it's not exactly a lock. I still might play him in my cash games, but it's not as easy as a decision, especially with all the other value we have at center today. And I say all the other value as if there's like sheets upon sheets. There's really not. But if you think about it, you do have Plumlee over for Denver. You've got Nurkic we talked about, who I think is in line for a decent run today. I mean, even if he only plays, Numberfire has him projected for 18 minutes today, 18 point something, right? So assuming he only plays that, which I think it's closer to, I think it'll be closer to from 22 to 25 at least. That's what I'm thinking. If that's the case, even at projected 18 minutes, he's still predicted to hit value on both sites. So that kind of gives you an idea of how I feel about him. Now, the thing we don't know is we don't know how many minutes he's actually going to get. Whereas a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein, who is cheap across the board on both sites, we know he's going to get run. Him and Kufas are the only two bigs they have now with Boogie out. So we know a guy like Willie Cauley-Stein should get some decent run. So those are some interesting things. Anyway, I think Ramon Sessions for Charlotte is also expected to be out. So I think Lamb is still a GPP play. I'm not crazy about going over too many guys from this game. It is a pace down spot for Charlotte, so I'm not too crazy. Detroit plays pretty slow, so it's one of those things where, in GPP exposure, I guess, but it's not exactly a place I'm targeting. Patrick Beverley for Houston is probable with his groin against New Orleans, and I believe that they said Lou Williams is not expected to play in this game. He was literally just traded yesterday, the day before, so he's not expected to play. So I think you can still play a guy like Aaron Gordon, who's 5,200 on DraftKings. I think he'll still get his 30-plus minutes, and he's still going to be in that opportunity to take those shots off the bench. So I think he's a fine play, especially just to get exposure to this game. I think that's completely fine. Speaking of, while we're on this game, obviously this is the highlight game of the night. That regardless of whether people are playing this game at DFS, which I think they will, it's two of the fastest-paced teams in the league. The NBA is going to be watching. We got Boogie Cousins has just joined New Orleans. Houston will be playing in New Orleans, I believe. And we're going to see Boogie and AD play together. New Orleans also, they got rid of all their shooting guards. So I think one of the only guys they have left is Etuan Moore. So I think Etuan Moore is a great value play today for cash games. 3,400, I know he's on DraftKings. I'm not sure what he is on FanDuel, but I'm sure he's cheap. And, listen, do I have concerns? Yeah, I have concerns that they don't really need him to do much. I mean, you got to think about it. Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, and Boogie are going to pretty much take all the usage, and that's just how it's going to go. But a guy like Etuan Moore should still see 30-plus minutes at least, and he's only 3,400. So if he gets lucky enough to get a few boards, maybe a steal or two, or, in a fast-paced offense, he's going to have a lot of opportunities. To me, it's hard to pass up on a guy like that that's so cheap and should be locked in for a decent amount of minutes. They traded away 3 shooting guards, three guys that were, I think all 3 of them were in front of him on the depth chart. They got rid of all of them, Langston Galloway, Buddy Hield, and Tyreek Evans. So I think that I think it's certainly interesting, and I think in my cash game I'm going to have to play Etwan more just because he's going to free up so much. And that's some of the things we were talking about with the value. There's so much value to go through today. And it's not just at center. I mean, even Tyreek Evans over on the Kings, who we'll talk about later. Tyreek Evans is going to be on the Kings. I'm not sure if he's going to play, but from what I understand, he's going to be on a 27-minute limit. A 27-minute limit. And that's not bad, 27 minutes. We've seen what he can do in 28. So he can do some damage in 27. So he's super cheap today, too. So we got a lot of options. But yes, anyway, going back to the Rockets. So with Pat Bev playing, Harden obviously makes for a great GPP play. I don't like paying up for guys like him in cash. I mean, I don't mind paying like 10K or 10.5, but at a certain point, you got to stop. Now, I will say there is enough value today that guys like Harden are not out of reach at all, not by any means. And as you can see, what do we have? 6 games today. So it's a great slate. I love these 6-7 game slates, but we have some interesting spots, and I think the Houston and New Orleans game will be popular, rightfully so. And as far as playing Boogie and Anthony Davis and those guys, I don't know. I don't know just yet. They're still priced really high, including Drew Holiday, and I'm a little concerned of what the usage is going to be. One of these guys is going to probably take more shots than the other, or maybe not. Maybe it'll all be even. But the thing is, does this mean that Boogie's 60 burgers are gone because now he's going to be sharing some of that usage? Does this mean that Holiday is not going to be able to put up 50 to 60 anymore either? Does it mean that AD is going to slow down, or they're going to peel back on his minutes since he's so injury prone? We don't know. So we got a lot we got to see. We got to see how this thing works. I don't think, I mean, yeah, you can project it and you can try to estimate, but you don't actually know how it's going to go when these guys are on the court. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue at some point. The first few games, I would imagine it's going to take them a while to click, but eventually I would imagine they're going to play well together. I do. As long as they're willing to focus on winning rather than focus on, who's the star of the team, I think that I think they could have a lot of success down there. So it's going to be exciting for the city of New Orleans, for sure. Let's see. Moving on. Let's see. Joakim Noah is expected to be out with his hamstring against Cleveland. Dude almost never plays, it seems like, and even when he does play, he never really plays more than 20 minutes nowadays. So Willie Hernan-Gomez is listed as the starter. Love that name. And we're expecting him to get some run. Now, he's priced up. I think it's like 5,800. But he is, he's over a one. He's projected. He is a player that is over a one projected point per minute. I know I can't word that right. It sounds horrible, but my point is that he's a guy that, if he gets minutes, he should produce. Now, Cleveland is a pretty good rim. Cleveland as a team, they're good rim protectors. So I'm not crazy about Hernan-Gomez. I don't think I'm going to put him in cash. If he was cheap, I certainly would put him in cash. But at this point, he's going to have to produce in order to pay off his salary, and I don't think that's necessarily a lock. Now, he is a producer. Don't get me wrong. Theoretically, if he plays 28 minutes, he should get about 28 points if he's slightly over one projected points per minute. So, but that doesn't always be the case, and that doesn't factor in for matchup. And this matchup may be a little tougher for him. Cleveland is at home. They're rested. They don't have Kevin Love, so I think that they may struggle a little bit more down low, relying on just Tristan Thompson. So I think he's interesting, and I'm not saying I'm not going to put him in cash. I have to construct. I have to do all my research. It's hard because I'm trying not to do too much until the 3 p.m. trade deadline as far as building lineups. I do have a dummy lineup built in there, but that's just for me to enter contests. I did think about it and I put context into it, but all that stuff could change. We could hear we could hear a trade right now as I'm speaking, and the whole thing would change. So, we got to be ready to adapt. We got to be ready to adjust. Let's see. Brandon Jennings is questionable with an Achilles. I think he'll play. I'm not positive. If for any reason Brandon Jennings does not play and Derrick Rose does not get traded, there has been rumors of Derrick Rose getting traded for Ricky Rubio, which, by the way, as a Knicks fan, I'd welcome that just because of the fact that Rose is killing Porzingis. And that kills me. Listen, Rose is cool. I'm glad he came and all, whatever. It's nice that he came to play in New York, but KP's our guy of the future. And Rose, you're taking away his shots. You're really screwing him up. So you're not an assist guy. You're a drive to the basket, score your own points guy. Rubio is more of an assist guy. So just real quick, just throw that in there. I'd welcome that trade. Anyway, if Brandon Jennings does not play, I think that makes Rose pretty much a lock in my cash games. He's 6,100 on DraftKings, and Kyrie Irving is not a good defender. We all know this. We've all seen this. And I think that a guy like Rose can really penetrate by him and do some damage. So, listen, the line is 10. So I'm not sure if that's going to scare people off of the Cleveland team, but they have a second or third highest implied total. So I wouldn't shy away from this game. If the line was like, 13, 14, 15, then maybe. But the line's only 10. So we could see this game stay close into the fourth quarter, at least the beginning of it. And if Brandon Jennings is out, I think that they're going to have to play Rose. It's either Rose or Baker at that point, and I think Baker will get some run at that point. But again, I do think Jennings is going to play. I'm just saying if he doesn't, because technically he is questionable. So if he does not play, I think you can lock Rose up, just because he's going to get all that run. Kevin Love, we know, is out, so I think that Kyrie and LeBron remain good plays. I think LeBron is a phenomenal play today against Melo. He always is. He always does well against Melo. Melo always does well against LeBron. Well, I don't want to say always, but Melo has done well against LeBron, and he's rested. And, speaking of Carmelo Anthony, something interesting. For at least a month, maybe 2 months, he's been playing under some serious duress. He's got pressure from his family. They don't want to leave New York. He wants to stay in New York to keep his family happy, most likely. And Phil Jackson's trying to push him out. One of the reasons they're trying to get rid of Rose is because they think it'll upset Melo. And for a guy like Rubio, I don't think it would upset Melo. Anyway, they were trying to push him out. So I think once the 3 p.m. trade deadline comes, and Melo is still a Knick, which she anticipates being a Knick, I think that he'll kind of be able to play a little more relaxed today, and we'll see a little more of Carmelo, of the Carmelo that we like to see. That's what I would think. He's playing his buddy. He'll just have some fun. He'll just kind of ball it out over there and try his best. So I think Melo's interesting today for sure. Anyway, going on to Denver. So it was fun with the Denver guys. We got to play some value guys. We got to play guys like Will Barton and just sit back and collect the money. That's not going to be the case anymore, or at least not as easily, because most of their guys are healthy. And, well, not all of their guys. They still got some guys out, but a lot of their guys are healthy. For instance, Kenneth Faried, he is doubtful with an ankle against Sacramento. He's probably not going to play. But Moutier is probable. Now, even though Moutier is probable, they have announced that Jameer Nelson is officially the starter moving forward. So I guess this is their way of basically giving up on Moutier. I don't know. At some point, maybe that role could switch. But I know that this year they were trying to figure out if Moutier was their guy or not. And if they're going to stick him on the bench and play Jameer Nelson, who is much older than a young Moutier, it sounds to me like they kind of made their choice, at least for the time being. So I'm not big on Moutier. Jameer Nelson is expensive, but it looks like he's going to be the starter. I'm not crazy about his matchup with Collison, but just throwing it out there. Wilson Chandler is expected to, he's probable. He was sick. He's supposed to play now against Sacramento. So with Wilson Chandler playing, that's going to take away some of the minutes for, assuming they put him at the 3 and the 4, which they always do. I think guys like Hernan Gomez is going to suffer a little bit. Will Barton, even they're not going to need him to play as many minutes because Gary Harris is going to start at that too. Also, Gallinari is questionable with a groin. If Gallinari comes back, I think that's Barton goes back to his bench role, and then he's too expensive for me. Now, I'm not saying that Barton doesn't have the upside even coming off the bench with these guys. He certainly does. We've seen him, pretty much most of the season that's been the case, and we've seen him demonstrate some of that upside. But he instantly becomes a GPP play and not a cash play. Not somebody, I'm not going to pay that price for a guy coming off the bench when Denver has all their scoring options back. Gallinari was their leading scorer for a while, so he might still be. So I definitely think that takes some of the shots away from Barton, and I think it takes away a lot of the playing time from Barton as well. And regardless, they don't need him. I like to play guys where a team has to play him. They need the guy. They don't necessarily need Barton to play those minutes. They got Chandler back. They might have Gallo back. Now, if Gallo doesn't play, I think Barton remains okay. They do have Chandler back, so that's still going to take away some of the minutes. But yeah, so we got some interesting things. Darrell Arthur, whatever. I think it's Darrell Arthur. He's questionable with a knee against Sacramento. So, I think things are interesting. Now, I was a little surprised at the line. The line's only 7. And so I think that that's pretty awesome because that means that I think it's safe to attack these guys. I think it's fine to play guys from both sides here. It is a pace down spot for Denver. The Kings are one of the slower paced teams in the league this year. However, with Boogie gone, anytime a player is moved from a team or whatever, you got to see it, how they adjust. A team's pace can completely change based off a couple players. I'm not saying Boogie's a slow-paced guy, but maybe they were slow because they had Boogie and they wanted to wait for Boogie to get down the court, or they wanted to figure out a way to get Boogie the ball, or whatever the case is. So maybe they will play faster. We don't know. And that's what makes these, when you just come back from the break and there are these big changes, it makes things different. It makes things difficult. You have to really pay attention, and you have to kind of get a feel for the games and follow these stats. So So if you're not comfortable, I get it. Go light tonight. You know what I mean? I completely get it. We still have to figure out how these teams are going to play, how these guys are going to play together. And also, like we said, we've gotten so used to some of these guys being out. We got to get used to the team with these guys back, right? Like before the break, it was pretty much play Denver guys every night, and you knew who to play. It's not necessarily the case. I'm not saying not to play them. That's not what I'm saying. I will certainly have exposure. On Twitter, I posted out, DraftKings tells you who your 3 most drafted players were. Mine was, I think was what, Melo, Jokic, and Chandler. Those are the guys that I have played the most this year. So listen, I play Denver guys all the time. It's not that I'm a Denver fan, but they're a fast-paced team. They chuck the ball, so I like them. And I'm certainly going to look. It's just a matter of which Denver guys to target, and it's going to depend on these injuries. If Farid is out, I think Chandler's more appealing. If Gallinari's out, I think Chandler and Barton are both more appealing. But if Gallinari's out, I'm really going to like Chandler, especially at his price. So, of course, those guys could be traded. From what I've heard, Gallinari and Chandler are both on the trading block. So it's like we are going to have to wait and see. But yeah, my point is that a guy like Barton, who was a lock for a cash game play, is now potentially going to be downgraded to a GPP play. So just keep that in mind. The news is all relevant. It's all important here. Anyway, on the Sacramento side, Ty Lawson is questionable with a hamstring. Now, from my understanding, he has returned to practice. He's practicing fully, so I think he'll play. If he does not play, Collison, who's already in a monster spot, I think Collison's a phenomenal cash game and GPP play today, just because we've seen what his usage is like without Lawson. Now picture him without Boogie. Now I think he might be a little upset. I saw his interview. Excuse me. Sorry about that, but I saw his interview with some Kings guy over with the Kings, and he was upset. Apparently, Boogie and Caspi were 2 of his closest friends on the team. So I think that the guy like him might be a little disgruntled, might be a little discouraged, but hey, it's his team now. Honestly, I mean, who else? Him and Lawson. It's their team. They're the veterans. They're the guys that are going to be expected to pick up games. So it happens to be a phenomenal matchup against Denver, the team that struggles heavily against point guards, and that didn't change over the All-Star break. I guarantee you that. So I do like Collison a lot today. I like him in cash games more just because I think he'll be super popular. So in GPPs, it might make sense to pivot off of him, even though he has the upside. Just because, 1, his price is up there to a point where he's going to have to work for it. And 2, he's going to be super popular. So you might want to pivot off. But I do think in cash games, he's a guy you can certainly go with on this Kings team. Especially if Lawson is out. If Lawson plays, Lawson is interesting himself because he's going to get a lot of run because he's another guy that they're going to rely on to score. And not just score, but run the offense, sort of. So I think both of them are interesting plays if they play. But if Lawson is out, I think I'm going to hit that lock button on Collison as far as my cash game goes. But if Lawson plays, I certainly think it's okay to pivot and find somebody else in your GPPs. And also even consider playing Lawson in a GPP. I even think that's I don't think that's so far-fetched. I think that's certainly interesting there. So, let's see. We also have Tyreek Evans is obviously one of the newcomers. So Tyreek Evans, Buddy Hield, and what's his name? Why am I blanking on this? Langston Galloway are the 3 guys that were sent over there. Evans is obviously the guy who's most game ready. Langston Galloway could ball, but he might even get waived. I don't know for sure, but he could play. But he's not like he's not a game changer. He's not a guy that's gonna really change the game all that much. But Tyreek Evans, we know, has immense upside. Buddy Hield is still a rookie. He's still got to learn. Now I know the Kings owner really likes Buddy Hield. I read something over the break that stated apparently every time the Buddy Hield would go to Sacramento and play the Kings, the owner of the team would tell Buddy, we're still going to get you. So apparently he really liked Buddy Hield. He wanted him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Buddy at some point, maybe not this year, maybe not now, at some point get some run just because they like the guy so much. But right now I think Tyreek Evans, who was drafted by the Kings ironically, he's the guy that's most proven as far as success in the NBA, as far as doing damage. So I think Evans is a great GPP play. He's supposed to get 27 minutes, which is higher than the 20, 22 we've seen him play in New Orleans. And this is a team that now has nobody, so they're going to need his scoring. So if you're confident that he's going to play for a full 27 minutes, then at his price, I think you can play him in cash. But if we're not sure if he's going to get 27 minutes or not, it's going to be hard to pull that trigger. Now, obviously, Tyreek Evans, if he is going to play, that's going to cut into Lawson a little bit and Collison. But like I said, because he's so cheap, he's going to be expected to kind of step up into a bigger role. He's in a pace-up spot against a bad defensive team. I think Evans is very, very interesting. Again, this is all impingent on if he plays, number one, which I think he's going to play, because why would they announce he's going to have a 27-minute limit if he's not going to play? I guess maybe future going forward, I guess that could be the case. But if he does play, he's cheap enough that I'm going to take a shot in my cash games on him, just because he's going to chuck. Like, one thing we know about him, he's going to shoot. And the only other guys he has to really worry, they don't even have Barnes anymore. So the only other guys he really has to, share the ball with, as far as guys who take a lot of shots, aside from the centers, aside from guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, who I think is a great cash game play just because he's going to get the minutes. But looking at, who? It's Lawson, who may not even start. It's Collison, who is still going to shot. But there's plenty of shots to go around for these guys. That's my point. So I think Evans is certainly interesting today. Anyway, on the Clippers, CP3 is questionable. He's medically cleared to play, and they have a matchup with Golden State. Does that mean he's going to play? I don't think he's going to play just yet. I don't think this is the game they're going to want to bring him back to. He's on injury. A guy like him who's a professional and who's a great player and who's a competitor, if you bring this guy back, he's not going to take it easy. He's not going to he's going to go all out and try to upset the Warriors. And I don't think that's the smartest move. I think if he does that, you can risk potential re-injury. So now it's just his thumb. It's not his legs or anything like that. So I guess he could. I don't think I necessarily want to play him in his first. I don't want to play him his first couple games back. I want to let him get adjusted. He's been out for a while. He's going to have to learn how to shoot again. Adjust to shooting with his thumb. But I will say, if he does play, the Clippers we've seen, with CP3, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league, and then without CP3, they became one of the worst. So I think we got to keep that in mind. If he does play, I think that you could expect the game's total to drop a little bit if he does play, just because I think the defense is going to be a little better. Now, maybe it won't, because CP3 is also a good scorer, so we don't know. But I'm not too crazy about the game in general, to be honest. And that's my fault. I don't really play the Golden State guys enough. I always just kind of stay away. Because they can attack you from so many angles, and they're always so expensive. And now they have a matchup with, if Paul doesn't play, I am concerned it's going to be a blowout. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have exposure to him in GPPs. In my multi-entry GPPs, yeah, I'll have some exposure to this game just because, more of just in case. It's a late night hammer kind of deal, so I would, but it's not something I'm exactly foaming over the mouth to play. On the Golden State side, Zaza and West are both questionable. I think they're expected to play, so their rim protection will be back a little bit. Guys like JaVale McGee, we'll see what happens. He played well without these guys, so it's going to be interesting to see if they kick those guys to the curb or if they keep trying to give them run. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do there. So that's it for the injuries that I'm aware of. Obviously, there could be more, and some of these things could change. Some of the information we discussed could change. You definitely want to pay attention. We don't know for sure what's going on. Everything is still new. And like I mentioned, we think that Lou Will is not going to play today for Houston, and I would be surprised if he did. So it's going to be a fun slate for sure. It's going to be interesting. I think that the NBA is exciting, and after the All-Star break, we know there's only 25 games left, so it's like, teams have to crap or get off the pot, so to speak. So it's going to be interesting, and we think that, it's going to be fun to watch this Houston game. For those of you who are going to watch it, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see Biggie. It's the perfect matchup back. A super pace-up, bad defense. Both these teams are not good defenders. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys go back and forth. There's basically, it's Harden against Boogie, Holiday, and Davis. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And remember, even if you don't watch the game live, make sure you get a glimpse of this game. We have to figure out how Boogie and AD are going to play together, and even how Holiday factors into that, and even who's going to play the two besides Etuan Moore. So there's a lot of things we got to pay attention for with these changes. Be on the lookout. We've heard a lot of trade rumors that could come to fruition. I heard Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Carmelo still, Derrick Rose. So there's a lot of guys up in the air that could be traded. The trade deadline's not for a few hours. There's still time. So be ready to adapt, and if there was ever a slate to be at your computer before lock, this is the one. And one of many, but this is one, I should say. So we'll have some fun there. So we didn't get a guest today like we wanted. We're not going to have one for tomorrow either, but I think we have one lined up for Monday. I'm not going to say who it is just yet until everything's confirmed, but I think we have a guest for Monday's show that you guys will like and will think is interesting. And but it's not so bad with just me, is it? Right? Anyway, if you're not a member of WiseTake.com, please sign up. It's free membership. You get access to our free raw DFS projections. We have a couple tools on there for you to use. We have a forums on there we're trying to get going, and we post all kinds of cool stuff. So do that if you're not a member already. Show some support. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate all of you who do that time in and time out, trying to improve our rankings, get us out there a little more. If you're listening on Podbean, give us a follow, leave us some feedback. And if you're listening on iTunes, subscribe to the channel. Leave us some feedback, rate us, good or bad, I don't care. I just want to hear feedback. I want to make this podcast as best as I possibly can for you guys. I want to know what you guys want to hear, so that I could provide it. That's it. It's what I do. You tell me what you want, I'll bring it to you. That's what I do. Anyway, that's gonna do it for us here at WiseTake. You can follow WiseTake on the Twitter at @wise_take. We really, really appreciate all of you who listen on a regular basis. We really, really do. We appreciate all the support. And listen, that's all we could ask for is your support. So anyway, we're going to have fun today. We're going to have a nice, interesting slate. And as always, good luck.